Hey guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with more Entitled People. If you enjoyed these story compilations, please don't forget to tell me in the comments, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled Screwing Over Employees, Bullying a Pregnant Woman, and Running an Unsanitary Restaurant? Have fun paying me $2,300. In 2008, I worked for a very small business owned by a wealthy couple from Western European country. They had 3 employees total, including myself at the time I started. The job was easy and straightforward at first, but there were some red flags early on. The position started off with 2 weeks as a training period, during which I would work with another person. After that 2 weeks, I would work shifts on my own on weekdays and with one other person on weekends. This meant that employees could not have normal lunches or breaks, which goes against our state's labor laws. I never signed a waiver for this, and it wasn't clear that I couldn't take my lunch breaks when I started. They had gluten-free options and heavily advertised this on social media. Any other establishment in our state would have adhered to strict sanitation requirements to avoid cross-contamination, but these people were shockingly relaxed. They never asked me for a copy of my food handler's license before training me to cook, and they instructed me to clean the entire shop with racks and plain water, no separate cooking surface or utensils for gluten-free menu items. A few weeks into my hiring, they purchased jugs of sanitizer and explained that they were expecting an inspector from the health department. They instructed me to not use the sanitizer because using it regularly was too expensive, but to keep it visible and lie to the health inspector about our sanitation practices. From there, things only got shadier. I received a flat $40 to $80 in tips with each paycheck. However, the rounded to the nearest $5 increments of tips seemed suspiciously low. When I worked register, I saw hundreds of dollars in card tips and knew they could have only been split by myself and 2 other people. We should have been making that bi-weekly figure per person in one day if it was busy. The owner got abnormally upset if my coworker and I split our tips at the end of each shift. The owner knew about things like that because he installed surveillance cameras shortly after I was hired. He watched it at all hours of the day, often monitoring the shop from his car in the nearby parking lot. Soon, I started getting reprimanded regularly for going against the early red flags. If he saw me eating lunch, he told me that he didn't care if I ate, but I'd better look ready to cook if a customer walked by. I would have to stay at the register, but not let anyone see me eat. I would often go days without eating more than one meal because my hours were so long and I never got more than a minute to put anything in my face. If he saw me using the sanitizer, he would insist that I was wasting his money. I told him that I felt concerned using the same cooking utensils for gluten-free dishes as I did for dishes that contained gluten. I felt that since so many of our customers had gluten sensitivities and allergies, it was only a matter of time until someone got sick. He told me that he had been operating this way for over a year and nobody ever got sick. So there's no point in worrying about it. I noticed my tips were about $10 less than usual that pay period. Additionally, the owner expected us to cook for customers if we were still physically present in the shop, no matter where we were in our closing procedures. I gotta say guys, just quickly in between, that restaurant sounds like a sweatshop in rural China and not some restaurant in America. Who would want to work in such a hellhole? Anyway, we were never to turn anyone down, but we wouldn't be paid overtime if closing took longer as a result. We also were not allowed to start any of the closing procedures early because he didn't want customers to think we were closed even if we were. Eventually, one of the other employees announced she was pregnant. As her pregnancy progressed, her ability to carry out a lot of her responsibilities diminished. It was medically necessary for her to cease heavy lifting, to be able to sit down, and to have access to her breaks and lunches to get her proper nutrition. The owner reprimanded her for these things and told her that he expected her to operate at her pre-pregnancy capacity. He added that she should not let pregnancy
make her lazy,
and that if she didn't remain active and she
let herself eat all the time, her baby would come out fat.
Like her. She tried to call out sick once too. She had to rush to the hospital because she was experiencing abnormalities in her pregnancy and thought she might have been miscarrying. She and the baby turned out to be fine, but the owner yelled at her for missing her shift and told her that he didn't care if she miscarried. Her responsibility was to him first. She ended up quitting, but remained friends with them. I don't know why. The owner's wife wrote passive-aggressive notes explaining that they were always watching us during our shifts and that they would start deducting our tips if we made any mistakes. If we made a mistake from cooking resulting in us wasting ingredients, it would come from our tips. If we broke an item in the inventory, it would come out of our tips. If we took too long to finish closing duties, still no overtime, and it would come out of our tips. It became more and more obvious that the owners included themselves in the tip pool, which is also illegal in our state. I was the only employee at the time who did not feel threatened by these people. My other coworker was an illegal immigrant from the same country as the owners. They treated her very badly and she did not feel like she could do or say anything about it because they repeatedly and falsely told her that she had no rights. They gaslighted her into thinking that they were so nice to hire her when no one else would. She felt like she had to work for them and she had to do whatever they told her to do because if she didn't, she would lose her only source of income with no guarantee of another one. If anyone confronted the owners about any of their violations, they would have acted shocked and insist that they were so new to the country that they don't know any of the laws yet. Any of their general a-holery was a cultural difference. They relied on these two defenses so much that they never bothered to actually protect themselves from a legal standpoint. I already knew I wanted to quit and that I wanted to alert local authorities to all their violations, but the final straw for me was when they cut my pay for making mistakes while I was exhausted and processing personal trauma. They made me sign a contract agreeing to the cut, but applied it retroactively to the pay period before the contract was signed. While it sucked not getting that extra money, I laughed for 20 minutes straight when I put together my pay stub and my copy of the contract. They basically offered themselves up on a silver platter because of their own incompetence. I documented everything I could because everything was so hilariously illegal. I had compiled a thick portfolio of evidence in no time and filed a wage complaint at the same time I handed in my 2 weeks notice. Once they knew about the wage complaint, they started a campaign of slander against me, which made me lose my next job. I didn't have hard evidence of that, so I let it go and applied somewhere else. The stolen tips really screwed up my taxes. My former bosses reported my actual tips to the IRS but kept me in the dark about the figure and gave me so much less that I ended up owing the IRS $400 more than what I expected. I spent the time between my employment with them and the hearing with the labor commissioner at the Department of Labor working alone on my case. On the day of the hearing, my former bosses brought their immigration lawyer and a stranger they paid off to act like they were my coworker who had no idea why I filed a complaint against them in the first place. All the evidence he presented against me had nothing to do with my claims of not getting paid overtime, not getting my meal breaks, and having my tips stolen. It was all just fake letters from fake people with awful Mary Sue OC type names. All the documents he presented could have been typed up the night before. It was so bad, their defense relied heavily on slander too.
Who would you trust? Me, a straight A university student at a prestigious school? Or her, an uneducated lowlife with an entry-level job?
Every time I presented hard evidence to the labor commissioner, the lawyer scrambled to come up with an explanation for why I was lying, but failed miserably. When I showed the labor commissioner my contract informing me of the pay cut with the pay stub reflecting a retroactive cut, the lawyer still did not understand what was happening. Their defense absolutely crumbled and the labor commissioner poked several holes in their stories. Fast forward to about a year later, I received a $2,300 check in the mail, which meant that I was awarded every penny due to me. What made this even sweeter for me was the date on the check. It was the same as the start of our city's stay-at-home order due to the virus. Not only are they losing money due to decreased business as a result of the virus, but they were legally required to pay me out at the same time. I won't be surprised if they don't survive the economic impact, but unlike the vast majority of small businesses in my area, they actually deserve it. Revenge is sweet, and karma is a female dog. And I gotta say guys, those were horrible working conditions, and I'm really glad that the OP escaped that place. Have you ever worked in a similar horrible workplace? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you so much in advance. Let's try to reach 1000 likes on the video. And the next one is a fantastic malicious compliance story about a coworker, and it is titled "Coworker and I maliciously comply with the owner's demands, owner loses thousands of dollars." A little over a year ago, I started my first job at a local restaurant. I was 16, making me, at the time, the youngest employee there. Nevertheless, I was determined to show that I was just as good as the older servers and buzzers. Things started out great, I was learning a lot and quickly becoming a solid buzzer. To me, the job was perfect as I felt I was good at it, and working nights fit in with my schedule perfectly. Then, about a week in, I walked in to see, but mostly hear, Jackie, the owner of the restaurant, screaming into her phone. I gather that she is on the phone with the internet provider and trying to get the internet back up before people sit for dinner. Dissatisfied with the customer service, hint foreshadowing, hint hint, she hangs up and asks me to take a look. Since she knows that I like computers, I head around the bar to the router and modem and see that neither has any lights on, both appear to be completely off. By the way guys, just a quick side note, there's currently a very heavy rainstorm all over Thailand, so if you hear any rain in the background, I apologize. Either way, a proverbial gong goes off in my head and I decide to check the outlet. Turns out the outlet had a built-in surge protector that tripped. I press in the reset button and the internet was up within 5 to 10 minutes. Little did I know, by pressing that button, I had just sold my soul as IT support to this rinky-dink restaurant. In fairness, it was not that bad most of the time. For about 5 months it typically was just,
"Have you tried turning it off and on?"
and the occasional part replacement. All of the IT stuff I did was going unpaid, which I did not really care about. I knew how to do it, Jackie knew that I could do it, so why wouldn't I do it? What I did care about, however, was how Jackie treated me when I tried to help her. Sometimes she would get oddly defensive and insist she knew how to do a thing when 5 minutes before she had asked me how to do the thing. I also noticed that on weeks where she decided to have an argument, my scheduled hours for the following week went down. She would also withhold pay. I cannot definitely say that there is a relation, but it happened multiple times with the exact same excuses. Also, during this time my buddy Brett was hired. Brett is my age, a grade ahead though, we like similar stuff and we knew each other from our school's robotics team. Around mid-August at the time, about 5 to 6 months in, Jackie has a brilliant plan to buy a brand new camera security system for the restaurant and get yours truly to install it all. When she told me, I was completely shocked. I mean, yeah, I had soldered and wired stuff before, but she's trusting a very expensive system to a kid with no real experience. When I brought up my concerns, Jackie brushed them aside with,
"Just document everything you do so you can trace back any mistakes."
Not fully convinced, but also not wanting to upset my boss, I, naively, accepted to install the system. I spent the next few days going over wiring schematics and drawing up a master that the whole system would be directly traced by. I may have been stupid enough to accept the job, but I was smart enough to do it right. I got Brad to help me with wiring and installation, and thanks to him we were able to get the system completely running within a few hours between the lunch and dinner rush. The place isn't that big, but there are 4 camera zones, some with multiple cameras to limit blind spots. Here is where the real trouble starts. When we finish the install and triple check all cameras, I tell Jackie that we are done. I then start going through with Jackie to show her how everything works. She starts having trouble with playing back cams since the system she bought was a relatively cheap one and had a poor interface. She started getting very annoyed, and here's the conversation that followed. Paraphrasing a lot. Jackie,
"You definitely did something wrong. I cannot work this thing."
me, there's nothing wrong. Look, I go through again how to play back video. Jackie,
"Exactly. You have made it so I cannot control it."
me, I didn't make the interface. That came with the system.
"Just fix it. How hard can it be?"
After this continued for a bit with both of us getting madder and madder, I realized that she thought the way I wired the system affected how to use it. To you and I, that is stupid beyond words, but she was 100% serious, so I decided to go all in as well. Jackie,
"I'm going to personally go over everything so I can use it."
me, okay, go for it. I pull out all the wiring schematics that I kept in a folder in the office. Here you go.
"What is all this?"
It's the complete map of how the cameras are wired. You said to document everything. I see her eyes go wide as she tries to take in everything on the sheets. To an untrained eye, complicated wiring schematics look like a maze with no exit. Me? Oh, and by the way, I quit. I turned around and walked out of the office, leaving her sputtering and screaming. I felt like I was on top of the world. And that is where the story should end, but we still have a bit more. Before I left the restaurant, I had a quick chat with Brett about what happened and warned him that she might try something with him since he helped me. To my surprise, I saw his eyes light up and he told me he would give me a call in a bit. A little later that night I get a call from Brett. Turns out I was right. Jackie tried to pressure him into rewiring the whole damn thing by himself, saying she would
"Fire him just like she had just fired me."
Brett was able to convince her to just take the time to learn this setup. Still no idea how he managed that. Brett was always way better at negotiating than I am. He walked her through how to bring up cameras and play back the video, and the camera he chose for the example was the camera in the office, right behind Jackie. Once the video was going and Jackie realized what was going on, she was just a passenger as our entire conversation was played out in front of her. When the playback ended, Brad turned to her and said, "Yeah, I quit too." The final nail in the coffin for Jackie, this was right before Labor Day, a huge time for restaurants, especially where we live. Jackie could not get replacement employees on time and the restaurant tanked badly, missing out on easily thousands of dollars in profits. It managed to stay open until just a little while ago, which reminded me of this glorious memory. Brett and I are still close and he's killing it at college, or at least he was, thanks virus. I don't know where Jackie is now, but I'm assuming she went back to doing what she does best, which is being a damn dumbass. And by the way guys, speaking about restaurants, what are your favorite restaurants to go to? I mean, which cuisine do you like the most? Let us know in the comments. And by the way, if you are a fan of restaurant shows, I hope you have already watched Kitchen Nightmares by Gordon Ramsay on YouTube. There are a lot of funny clips available about that show on YouTube and it is very worth watching. I think once I discovered that show, I watched around 100 plus clips in one day. That show is just absolutely genius. And the last one is titled, "My coworker got himself fired." I feel like the title suggests me being responsible for him being fired, which I am for my role in the issue, but man, he just walked right into it here. Also typed this on phone, so I'm sorry. I work at a marketplace and this guy, I will call him Mark, not his name of course, and I don't have a good history. He does not like me because I am white and I am gay. Here's the thing, I am Puerto Rican and not gay. I'm not sure how he got the impression that I am gay either. My girlfriend got me the job, so I guess he must have not known her. One day we are both in the back room, I am filing online orders and he's organizing for stocking. He looks over while I am on a computer for an order and he goes,
"You know, my religion says you're going to hell."
I'm a pretty sarcastic dude when someone bothers me, so I responded with, "You think Satan's dick tastes like hot Cheetos?" I think that is the best thing I've ever said, if I'm being honest. He leaves and 15 minutes later I get called over to the manager's office while Mark is standing next to the HR rep with a crap-eating grin. The manager says, Look, we pride ourselves in our inclusiveness and openness to all walks of life. But bringing things up at work is inappropriate and not productive. I was a little shocked, but I said, did Mark say I was gay? My girlfriend works here. 15 minutes ago, Mark said I was going to hell for being gay, and I'm not even gay. It made me pretty uncomfortable that he would shame me for this when I'm trying to get orders out. Manager goes, Mark, you told me that he tried to force his beliefs on you. Mark,
he's lying his way out of this. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He just tried to hit on me and he made me feel uncomfortable, and he's going to get away with it.
Me, I can call girlfriend name if you want. Manager, that's fine, just go back to work. I leave and I don't see him again. 2 days later I am at work and I ask one of the stickers who I went to school with what happened to Mark. He told me that he quit after I left the office, saying that he wouldn't work at a place that promoted my anti-Catholic behavior. Another coworker said he got fired during the meeting, so I am not sure what to believe, but he was the one who initiated the conversation and the report that made him leave/get fired. So I don't know if it is totally petty revenge, but it did put a smile on my face. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the content today, and if you are looking for more ripe content, then I suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more exclusive Reddit videos. This is a great way to support me for just $3 a month. We already have 20 plus exclusive Just No Mother-in-Law videos, so if you are interested in Just No Mother-in-Law, then I suggest checking out my Patreon. Either way, thank you so much for watching here on YouTube. I really appreciate your support and that you come here every single day. Without you, this would not be possible. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.